Hi guys, Phil Graham here from Diabetic Muscle and Fitness.com. I want to discuss a common myth that's spread around the fitness industry. If you're diabetic and you're listening to this right now, you've probably been asked or told that diabetes is an advantage to building muscle and your bodybuilding efforts. If you're not diabetic and you're listening, you have probably heard of that because you've probably associated exogenous insulin use with people that bodybuild and as a result increase levels of muscle mass. Well, first of all, let's get a few facts straight. Diabetes is a highly catabolic condition. It's a state of undernutrition. So in a nutshell, I'm not going to go too much into what diabetes is because I have other videos on that and you can learn all about that in my new book, The Diabetic Muscle and Fitness Guide. But one of the major complications of diabetes is hyperglycemia, which is basically high blood glucose due to a lack of insulin or a lack of production or a lack of insulin action, lack of sensitivity, so to speak. And there's different types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. But let's talk about mostly type 1 and extreme versions of type 2, the people that use insulin as medication. So when you don't produce insulin, nutrients cannot get into cells. And as a result of that, the cells are starved of nutrients. As a result of that, the body has to get fuel from elsewhere. And it typically uses ketones and amino acids to get that fuel. So let's talk about the amino acid component for a moment. So we have protein synthesis, that is the process of building muscle. With diabetes and hyperglycemia, we see a reduction in protein synthesis. So as a result of that, we get a reduction in muscle mass. We get a reduction in muscle mass, we get a reduction in strength, we get a reduction in basal metabolic rate, so it's not too favorable for any bodybuilding purposes. Now, people will say, well, you take insulin, that's an advantage. Well, a type 1 diabetic or somebody with type 2 diabetes, the extreme progressor version, will need to take insulin because they lack the production of that particular hormone. Now, they're taking that manually. They're not taking that automatically and again adding extra on top of that like a typical bodybuilder would use. So as a result of that, they are only medicating for something that is deficient within their bodies. And we have to remember with type 1 diabetes, it is an autoimmune disease. So the body actually attacks the specific cells, the beta cells within the pancreas that produce insulin. So there is complete deficiency. And with that complete deficiency comes a lot of catabolic activity. We also see a massive increase in dehydration. We see an increase in glycation of joints, which basically gums up muscle tissue and gums up mobility, making it harder to achieve full range of motion within exercises and a host of other things. We also see eyesight problems. We see lack of concentration. There's a whole host of things that go on with the complications associated with diabetes. So in no way is a diabetic who takes injectable insulin at an advantage of building muscle. And also worth checking out is the European Journal of Endocrinology, especially the research paper that looked at administration of exogenous insulin, that means injectable insulin, into different populations. And basically a quick summary of what they found was that exogenous insulin administration in young, healthy individuals did not make significant increases in muscle mass. So a lot of individuals that are using insulin from a bodybuilding perspective are using it with no evidence base, no scientific base to actually justify an increase in gains, so to speak. What insulin will do is it will shovel all the nutrients into the muscle cell, cause hyperhydration, drive amino acids in, drive protein in, and water as well, and as a result of that, just simply result in cell swelling or volumization. It will have a minimal effect on protein synthesis or increasing it, so to speak, above baseline when there is already insulin present, and also, most importantly, a training stimulus there. So your training stimulus matters much, much more whenever it comes to maximizing muscle mass. And if you have diabetes, ensure that your blood sugar is in control, because as a result of that, the fuels will be able to be utilized and organized properly within the body, and you will ensure maximum performance because you won't be in a hyperglycemic state, you won't be breaking down muscle tissue, and you will also ensure maximum recovery. Again, lack of muscle tissue breakdown, you've got glycogen carbohydrate being restored back into the muscle tissue for storage, which in turn is going to allow you to train harder the next time. Remember, carbohydrates are one of the chief fuels that are used in resistance training, and if you have high levels of muscle glycogen or relatively healthy levels of muscle glycogen, good energy base, you are going to be able to train with a good effect, and as a result stimulate muscle mass gains. So even from a scientific perspective, insulin exogenous administration through injection or whatever means is not going to be a massive asset to your muscle gains. So whenever somebody does say to you that you are at an advantage because of your diabetes and that you take insulin, the direct answer to that is no. So guys, if you find this useful, I talk in much greater detail over at diabeticmuscleandfitness.com. I also discuss this massively in my book, The Diabetic Muscle and Fitness Guide. So if you haven't got a copy, head over to diabeticmuscleandfitness.com and order it up. It is absolutely fascinating. And just as a thank you for listening to this video, you can head over and grab your free diabetic fitness report, which is loaded with muscle building, fat loss, nutrition, and training knowledge gems that you can download straight to your inbox and take to the gym. Just simply hit your email address in, click download, and it will be sent directly to you.